Men suck at emotion. Almost all of us here have heard about this statement at some point in our lives. It's kind of unfortunate that it's a universal truth at this point, and it's something I agree with. See, relationships, love, commitments, all of these concepts are very hard for us men, specifically Indian men. And it's a shame that we are called a lot of mean things. Blockheads, emotionless meatbags, red flags, the list goes on. But have you ever wondered why? Why men, specifically Indian men, struggle with all of this? Well, if you have not, don't worry. Over the next 10 minutes or so, we'll be doing a deep dive into the psyche of Indian men to see why we are the way we are and what makes us the people that we are today. And of course, what we can do about it. So let's start at the very beginning, back when we were tiny kids. See, I know for a fact that almost all the people, especially the people significantly older than me, grew up in a generation where emotions were not really entertained, not encouraged. And my school, well, they took this to the next level. See, back in my school, it was taboo to even talk to a girl, let alone sit with her. In fact, that was this punishment. They would force us to sit next to girls so that we would behave. And I remember vividly back in 4th standard, I received my very first punishment. It was back in maths class. I think I was having a tad bit too much fun that the teacher met my eyes, said, "Adish, up." I was scared. She pointed to one empty seat next to two girls and said, "Sit." I rose up hesitatingly. All my pleas fell on deaf ears and I silently moved towards that seat. I sat down, looked to the person on my left, looked to the person on my right, smiled very uncomfortably, and then buried myself in my book. See, I was the best boy for the next 40 minutes without a question. I know it seems funny right now looking back at it, and I know that she was trying to teach me discipline, but the irony is that she was conditioning me. See, she conditioned me with fear that day, the fear of interaction, and unknowingly or knowingly, she was slowly putting up a barrier there, a barrier that prevented me from communicating. See, it might seem insignificant, like harmless small acts, but it is these small harmless acts that our elders take for us, which makes us the person who we are. You might think I'm exaggerating, but you will see why all of this makes so much sense in the end. So, we take these tiny decisions as a part of our lives and we grow up. We grow up as isolated young boys and we are happy, not another thought in our world. And as we grow up, we tend to look towards the people that we respect for a blueprint, for someone to model ourselves after. And who else would that be other than our parents? So let me ask you a question to all the men out there today. When was the last time you saw your father cry? It's not that simple, right? Well, if you ask me, never. In the last 22 years I've been born, I've been on this earth, not a single time have I seen that man shed a single tear. See, he's not a stoic man in any regard. He has plenty of emotions, mainly disappointments, but I've seen a sort of happiness and neutrality here and there. See, they lived in an era far harsher than ours. They lived in an era where they were meant to be strong, where emotion was considered weakness, not wisdom. So it makes sense that they grew up with sayings like, "Oh, be a man, stop whining. Don't cry, people don't cry, men don't cry." See, all these are very regular phrases for them, and unfortunately, down the line, these all became regular phrases to us. See, it's truly sad that we saw our role models, our blueprints, live lives where they bottled up all their emotions inside without a second thought. They were fighting their silent wars alone. And knowingly or unknowingly, that's also something we inherited. We didn't inherit just their dashing looks, their great fortunes. We inherited that silent battle, that emotional isolation. So you might think I'm exaggerating just to prove a point, so let me ask you one last time, another question to all the men. When was the last time you cried? Well, I feel like that is a bit harder to answer, but there is one exception. One tiny exception that makes men my age cry like babies. It's one word. In fact, one of the people sitting in the front bench about 36 hours ago cried for the same reason. It's one word, something familiar to everyone, and that is bestie. See, I know we live in an era where the word bestie has so many negative connotations. It's practically a synonym for relationship trouble. And I know for a fact, I speak for every single man out there who's in a relationship, we hate male besties. It's a fact. So that begs the question, can guys and girls ever really be friends? And I know what some of you are thinking right now. Why is this guy bringing up such an absurd topic during this talk? But trust me, it'll make sense. See, we've already gone over how we became the people that we are. As boys, we never really talked to anyone, let alone a girl, let alone have an emotional connection with a girl. We also never really talked about emotions. So when these tiny little kids reach adolescence, where they reach an open space, what do you think happens? They just might find one person that actually listens to them. They might find one girl where they can shatter themselves around. That one person that actually listens to them, that validates their feelings, and something just snaps. They instantly realize, this is the one. She is the one for me. I don't care what anyone else says. This is the person I've been looking for. She understands me. It's a slippery slope. Because for girls, it's none of this is the same. See, girls, when they grow up in an environment where emotions are validated. They grow up in an environment where they're forced to cry when they are sad. It is okay. See, when someone grows up in an environment where emotional connections are encouraged, where they build multiple connections with their fathers, mothers, cousins, friends, best friends, this becomes an everyday thing. And when such a guy meets such a girl, the girl will just see it as just that, a good friend, nothing more, nothing less. But us, us on the other hand, we have planned out our wedding days, we have planned out the name of our kids, which school to send them to, and why we'll name them that particular thing. See, boys, it's a slippery slope, and it is this same slope that forces us to our first heartbreak, our first tattoo, our first cheers to the boys. It's truly a shame. And it pushes guys to such a dark place that we do the unthinkable. We break down in front of our male friends. Oh, trust me, there is nothing more funnier than trying to witness a guy or a group of guy friends comfort one of their male friends who's bawling. In fact, it is my favorite memory in college. In third year, I saw one of my friends, great friend, a social butterfly, an extrovert in all degrees, was play fighting with his girlfriend. And one of his jokes got a bit too far. She didn't take it very well. Initially teary-eyed, she started out bawling, ugly crying. Now this 21-year-old male, 21-year-old adult male who's emotionally mature, froze. You could see emotion on his face. This has never happened to me before. This wasn't even in the syllabus, goddammit, and you could see that man's world break down. I was in awe. I was in absolute awe as I saw this masterpiece of a human utter 3 words. I'm sorry, please don't cry, and then ran across to the other end of the classroom. See, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at that point because I wouldn't have fared any better. See, it's a shame, it's a true shame that we as men were always taught to be strong, never how to be weak, let alone handle grief or help someone else handle their grief. See, I believe as human beings, we're all social creatures. We should have realized way back in the day that we as human creatures, it is one of the most fundamental human necessities to know how to comfort someone. Think about it. Is there ever a greater tragedy than you being in a helpless position, not being able to help the people that you love? Is there even a greater tragedy? See, I would go as far as saying that if we just taught our men how to feel, how to grieve, we wouldn't have lost as many student lives this past year. See, that's not even the worst part. When we grow men in such a state, we never expect what we can't give. When men go through the hardest point of their lives, where each day feels exponentially more painful than living one more, when we are at the darkest depths of the abyss, we don't know what to do. We never realized that all we needed was someone to pat on our shoulder and say, it is going to be all right, don't worry. Instead, what do? We blame ourselves. We say we are not strong enough. We will never be good enough. This was our fault in the first place. So you see where the problem lies. It is this vicious thought cycle that I know each and every man sitting here in the audience has went through. And that's reality. So let that sink in for a second. Look at the person right next to you. Look at the person who's sitting on your left. Odds are they went through the same thing. And odds are none of us realize this. And that's reality at the end of the day. See, it is this same person who's living in a delusion that, okay, maybe if I find that one person in my life, they will magically fix me. And so, us pathetic emotional masterpieces of men enter the dating realm. That is another huge blunder because we were never taught how to love, let alone romance. All the ideas of romance as man is something we obtained from the big screen, where 40, 50-year-old screenwriters thought it was a great idea to portray romance as grand gestures of love, love triangles, and so on. It's pathetic that we thought that love works out like a K-drama plot. It really didn't. See, they made the biggest fool out of us, and once men start stepping into the dating realm, it's chaotic. The first relationship might last for 2 months, 3 months, maybe even 4 if you're lucky. Then we realize after the first fight, maybe even the second, that, oh, this is not what I signed up for. She fights with me? Really? Me? And then we just have this internal realization, okay, she was never the one. Let's move on. Second person, third person, fourth person, and by the fourth person, most men give up. They unknowingly lose hope. They realize this thing called love, not meant for me. I am pathetic. Maybe men do suck at love. Let's face it. Let me break it to you, men, those 40, 50-year-old screenwriters, they lie to you. It is not that you suck at love. It was just that you were never taught how to love, at least properly. See, there will be some people that survive this relationship, that dating phase, and those are people who invested their time to find out who they are themselves. They've worked on themselves. They have dedicated effort into a cause which is unlearning love, love as they knew it. And this is not a one-day process. This might have taken days, months, or even decades. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I have 3 harsh truths for all my hopeless romantics out there scratching their heads. I'll keep it simple. The first and easiest one is love is not sunshine and butterflies. See, men are men, women are women. We're fundamentally different beings, we each with different strengths, different weaknesses, different emotions, different needs. Then you can't just put these two together and say dance. That's not how it works. See, it's like taking 2 professionally trained dancers, each of one good style, and then telling them to perform the perfect symphony. It won't work. See, you might step over each other's toes, you might fall down, you might break a bone even. But what kind of love would it be if you gave up after the first fall? After the second fall, or maybe even after the third fall? If you ask me, love is the strength that you have to see through countless wars, to see through countless arguments and so many fights, to see through those little moments with the person you love. So all my hopeless romantics, don't get deterred. All of you deserve love. Each and every one of you can love. It was that you were never taught. But you can start today, which brings me to the second hard truth. Emotions are not weakness. See, we lived in an era where emotions were synonymous to weakness. We never really realized that accepting who we are, accepting that we get sad, we get weak, we get hopeless, these qualities, these emotions are indeed what your strength is. We never realized that bottling up your emotions is probably the worst thing you can do. In fact, if you decide that today you're no longer going to be sad about how you feel and instead accept it, you will have the greatest strength by your side. There is no greater gift you can give others or your loved ones than to accept that tiny part of yourself. See, I know that we live in a world where men who are weak are publicly shunned. But odds are the people shunning you are also people in your same circumstance. All of us are victims of circumstances. See, the judgment that you face is often a far cry of ignorance from the people who are helpless. When you display weakness, it is the judgment that you face is simply the other person not able to process those emotions. So don't get deterred. Accept yourselves, accept your emotion, because that's what makes you who you are. And finally, the third and last advice, which is the responsibility to change lies in none other than yourself. We've been through how we became the person that we are. We came through such trials and tribulations, decisions that our elders made that impacted the person that is standing before you. But let me tell you, you are capable. Each and every one of us is capable of change. See, what happens is that when you go through all of this, you start hating everyone. You start hating the society. You start hating your parents. You start hating your friends for making you the person that you are. But trust me, the best part about being a human is your ability to change, your ability to self-reflect, your ability to grow as a person. At the end of the day, that's what inner renaissance is all about. And it is none other than your responsibility to be a better person. It might sound absurd, but all of us, each and every one of you sitting here, has your own unique battle to face. We all have different preconceptions. We all have different battles. We all have our different demons. So we can't ever expect another to face the same level of difficulties. And so we have to, since I believe that we can finally be the generation that breaks the cycle. The cycle that was unbroken when it came to our grandparents, when it came to our parents, but when it comes to us, I believe we can stop it. See, the world has told us men on how to feel, how to act, how to be a better man, but I believe that we as a generation can redefine what it means to actually be a man. We as a generation can choose understanding over isolation, emotions over arbitrary strength, and love over fear. We as a generation can finally put our heads up high and say, men don't suck at love. Men were meant to love. Thank you.